My name is Amanda Tress. I'm the founder and CEO of The Faster Way, and I'm honored to be here with a member of our scientific advisory board, Dr. Bill Campbell. Dr. Bill, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So we have quite a bit of ground to cover as we go through this training, but we are going to start with a conversation around whole food nutrition. And I know what you're wondering. You do not have to go to Whole Foods in order to complete our 5-day summer Slimdown. And we're not talking about foods that have a hole. Whole food nutrition is food that is not processed. And you have done quite a bit of research on processed foods and how it impacts the body, haven't you?
Yes, and I was kind of amazed at the differences that it has on somebody's body composition.
Yes.
So one of the studies that I remember reading about and really digging into, they put subjects in a research lab for 2 weeks, and they gave them all processed foods or all whole foods. And this was, again, for 2 weeks at a time. Then they switched over to the other one, and they ended up eating 500 on average, 500 additional calories per day over every day for 2 weeks. They gained significant amount of weight. And the only thing that was interesting was it was an all processed food diet. So what the researchers discovered was in order to get a level of fullness, when you're eating processed foods, you have to eat more and more of them. And real quick, what does processed foods lack that whole foods generally that they don't have? Well, processed foods are high in sugar, high in fat, and devoid of protein. So processed foods are, I like to say, they're not your friend when you're trying to lose body fat.
Yes. And whole foods often come from the ground or have a mother. We say in The Faster Way, if you find a food that comes from the ground or has a mother, it's generally healthier. It has the macronutrients and the micronutrients that you need in order to function optimally. Processed food is not your friend. I think that's a great mantra to live by.
That's my lesson. Can I tell you one more quick story?
Please, as much as you need.
This study has really stuck out to me. Researchers gave subjects, now the same subjects, 2 different sandwiches. One was a processed food sandwich. So it was a cheese sandwich. And they gave them the same thing when it was whole foods. So the whole food sandwich had whole grain bread and cheddar cheese. When they gave the same subjects the processed food sandwich, so think of processed white bread, the most processed cheese you can think of. Now, here's the key. It had the same number of calories, almost the same number of the ratio of macronutrients. But when they measured how many calories their bodies burned after eating one of these 2 sandwiches, after eating the whole food cheese sandwich, they burned about twice as many calories over the next 6 hours. It was about 140 calories versus only 75 that they ate with the processed food sandwich. So this is another piece of evidence that I, as a fat loss researcher, I share with people. You are actually inducing more calories. It's like exercising. By just choosing whole food sources. Your body will burn. It takes more energy for your body to process the whole foods. And like you said, you get more nutrients as well.
Right. Yeah.
So it is your friend. The whole food is your friend when trying to lose fat.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I often say that your body is either healing or you are making your body sicker. And if we're having processed foods full of sugar and chemicals, then our body doesn't have the chance to really heal and to have an optimized metabolism and a nice energy level. We are not going to be doing the lean pockets or the wheat thins. And I just want to be honest with you guys, transparent. When I started in the nutrition and fitness industry, gosh, almost 20 years ago, which dates me a little bit, I didn't understand this concept of the value between whole food nutrition versus processed foods. And I was looking more at the total calories or the total macros. And I have to just be honest. I mean, I was actually telling my clients that it was okay to have the mini wheats or the wheat thins or the Subway sandwiches or the lean pockets and the lean cuisine. And I personally ended up being put on blood pressure medication because of the amount of fast food that I was eating and processed food that I was eating. My blood pressure was 170 over 110, 155 over 109. I was on blood pressure medication for years. Not until I did more research on nutrition and saw the value of whole food nutrition, if it comes from the ground or has a mother, did I then have the opportunity to wean myself off of the blood pressure medication and start to really see more results, decrease the bloating, feel more energized. So I have personal experience with this whole phenomena of transitioning to a whole food diet from a processed food diet and seeing how that helped me and my own body. But, so many of us, we just only want to look at the calories or the macros. And I think what you just shared is like groundbreaking of the, a sandwich that's processed versus whole food. Wow.
Yeah, it's not. When you look at the energy in, it is the same number of calories. But your body has to work to digest and absorb and process that food. And that study, and it was very well controlled.
Wow.
We learned the energy out, which is exactly what exercise is doing, was significantly higher. And I love if it comes from the ground or if it has a mother. I'm going to use that as a parenting cue because I think my kids they'll respond. That's a much more visual learning point. So I'm going to steal that.
Okay, no problem. You can steal it. No problem at all. So we're chatting about whole food nutrition. Our foods have 3 different macronutrients: carbs, fats, and proteins. And I want to discuss protein because you are one of the world's leading researchers on this macronutrient of protein. First and foremost, define protein for us. Maybe give us a few examples of protein, and then let's dive into the science of why we need protein.
Okay, so protein is unique when we compare it to fats and carbs because it has a nitrogen atom. And nitrogen is what we use in our muscles. So if you're trying to build muscle, that is protein. And as an exercise scientist and fat loss researcher who has done a lot of protein research, one of the easiest things we can do to improve our body composition is to prioritize protein. So I call it a protein-anchored diet, but it's basically making sure that we're getting enough protein each day. And the other part of this is if we exercise, and we all should exercise causes a stimulus on our bodies. And the only way that our bodies will adapt to that training stimulus is through protein. So exercise is the stimulus. Protein is the adaptive nutrient that allows our bodies to adapt, and by building muscle, having stronger bones, stronger joints. So it is what we should prioritize in a diet, especially for people in the fitness lifestyle.
So you said that protein should be the anchor for our diet. Give a few examples of protein, and then we're going to discuss how much protein we should really be eating, because I guarantee that many of you who are joining the Faster Way 5-Day Summer Slimdown are under consuming on protein, and this is sabotaging your efforts. So share with us a few examples.
So I like to, not just I, but any nutritional biochemistry textbook, they'll kind of categorize protein into 2 camps: high quality and lower quality protein sources. High quality protein sources would be animal sources. So dairy protein, chicken, beef, and lower quality tends to come from plants. Now that doesn't mean that we cannot take protein from plants. All it means is we need to have more protein from plant sources. Right now, I'm doing a lot of reading on collagen protein, and there's a lot. That's technically a low quality protein, but there's a lot of benefits to collagen protein. So we don't want to eliminate just because something is low quality. We just have to be educated. So again, if you want to get the best value, typically like whey protein or casein protein, and protein that comes from an animal source would be the best. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to choose those, you're choosing, let's say, plant-based sources, we simply need more of it to get the same level of adaptation.
In the Faster Way, we have a Faster Way wellness line, and one protein option is a hydro beef protein, which is from Swedish cows. And then we also have a plant-based pea protein option for our clients who are vegan for religious reasons. But we tell our clients that the Hydra beef protein is actually more bioavailable. They're going to absorb more of the protein that way versus the pea protein. And some of our clients like the taste of the pea protein, but I say, you're going to need more. So share with me your recommendation for how many grams of protein us women should be consuming.
So I like to make this as easy as possible. So the number one lesson is focus on how much protein you're eating in a whole day. So when you wake up till you go to bed, try to focus on getting the maximal amount, well, not the optimal amount of protein that you need. And I'll give you that number in a second. I would say everything else is not as important in terms of, do I need to get it every 3 hours or 5 hours? Not that it doesn't matter, but just if you can hit your protein goal at the end of the day, that is the largest needle mover. So I like to recommend between 0.75 grams per pound up to a gram per pound of body weight. So if you're somewhere in that range, now some people struggle. So if I can't possibly get, like I weigh around 210 pounds. So if I'm getting a gram per pound, that's 210 grams of protein for myself in a day.
Wow.
So after we get that, let's make the math easy. Let's say I weigh 200 pounds. So once I have my 200 gram goal, now I want to evenly distribute my protein throughout the day. So if I'm eating 3 times per day, a third, and a third. Or if I'm eating twice per day, half in the earlier part of that feeding window, and then the other half. So I could get 100 grams in the morning, or let's say I wait till noon to eat, and then I'm done eating at 8 p.m. I could get another 100 grams at 8 p.m. Or like I said, maybe I eat 4 times in that window. So most important, what's your total daily amount? Then you want to approximately evenly distribute that throughout the day. That's the next most important aspect.
Now, through the 5-day summer Slimdown, you are not tracking macronutrients. As you join our 6-week Faster Way to Fat Loss program, you will be given customized macros and asked to track your macronutrients. This week, we want you to focus on following the meal guide, transitioning to whole food nutrition away from the processed foods. But many of you are going to start to see as you implement this meal guide that you are eating quite a bit more protein than you typically would, and you are feeling more satiated. My recommendation is similar to yours. I often say have 1 gram per pound that you hope to weigh, 1 gram of protein per pound that you hope to weigh. So if I hope to weigh 125 pounds as someone who's 5'3", then I'll have 125 grams of protein. And so you can kind of, translate that to your own life. But so many of my clients who come into our Faster Way Summer Slimdown or the Faster Way 6-week program, they are only consuming 50 grams of protein, 75 grams of protein, and that is not enough. Now, there is a lot of confusion on Instagram and Pinterest and the internet around if we need much protein. In fact, I heard a podcast interview recently on a pretty well-known podcast that has millions of listeners, and a doctor said, you only need 75 grams of protein, and we barely need protein. And, it was more of a pitch for a vegan lifestyle.
So I have a thought to that. Okay, again, I'm a protein researcher as well.
Yes.
How much do we need? If your goal is to stay alive and continue breathing, you will get away with much less than what I recommend. But I like to have a higher goal for just staying alive. I like my students, my research participants, and people that read my research to have like a thriving lifestyle. And if you want to have an optimal amount, so there's a difference between needs and an optimal amount. We go back to this range, a gram per pound of what you hope to weigh. I like that. And that is enough to give you multiple benefits. Just that's allowing you to adapt to your training. That's the main thing. But also you mentioned you feel fuller. You're less hungry with that amount. And there's a whole science on people who undereat protein. There's multiple studies that when people are eating this 50 grams per day or 70 grams per day, if the only thing they change is increasing protein, and they're increasing their calories, but not from carbs and not from fat. Two things happen. They lose body fat and they gain muscle mass, and that's without any exercise. So the biggest gains in somebody's physique comes in those people who are under eating on protein, and they simply make up the difference. And again, to me as an exercise scientist, it was very surprising at first. I'm like, well, we shouldn't lose fat just from increasing calories. But multiple studies have shown this. I've published research from my own lab where we demonstrated this in females that were lifting weights.
Oh my goodness. That is fantastic. So they simply ate more protein.
All they did. That is all they did.
Burned fat and increased muscle mass. This is like opposite day. So many of us have heard from our doctor, from the Instagram nutrition expert, that we should eat less overall and exercise more in order to lose weight. But what you just said is that when these participants ate more protein, they actually burned fat and gained muscle. That's incredible.
Yes. And remember, they were starting from where a lot of people do. They weren't eating very much. Now, if you're already getting a gram per pound of your hope weight, don't double that.
Yes.
Like, there comes a point where you have enough.
Good point.
But that's not where most people are at. Most people, and in my research, it's a lot more females are susceptible to just not eating much protein.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. You just increase that amount and your body changes.
Yeah. Okay. It is worth mentioning our clinical trial right now, because we have a Faster Way clinical trial that we completed at the end of last year. Our participants ate more of the right foods in most cases. So they had an increase in protein. They had a moderate amount of carbs and fats, depending on their goals. The control group, is that correct? So that's what it's called, the control group. They followed the American Heart Society.
Yeah, that's what you were comparing
food guide pyramid recommendations, my plate recommendations. So they were having more carbs. Well, in only 6 weeks, our experimental group, which ate, again, more protein, a good amount of carbs and fats, depending on the macros that we gave them, they burned fat. They decreased their bio age by 3 years on average. They lowered cholesterol. They increased muscle mass, where this control group over here, following the government recommendations, they gained weight. And they were trying to live healthy. They gained weight. They didn't increase muscle. They had no improvement to cholesterol in only 6 weeks. And so the clinical trial results just outstanding. And, we've had 442,000 clients see success in the Faster Way. So I was feeling pretty confident, but having the clinical trial to prove our point, but it might feel like opposite day to you guys, okay? Because again, we've been told for years by doctors and Instagram experts to eat less overall and to exercise more in order to see results, where we're saying actually maybe eat more of the right foods if you've been under consuming on protein. And when you guys follow the 5-day Summer Slimdown sample meal guide, you are actually going to find that you feel pretty darn satisfied. Many of our participants will say, "Oh my God, I can't even eat all this food. This is more food that I've, been eating, for a while, but it's making you feel more full versus the lean cuisine, versus the processed foods." So I just love this conversation. Let's transition from the protein topic to workouts, and specifically strength training, because I think that's a perfect transition. Let's talk about strength training in particular, which you guys are going to do a total body strength training workout Wednesday, upper body strength training on Thursday. We do have leg day on Saturday. So if you stick around with us, you'll get to enjoy that. What's the value of strength training?
To me, it's the heartbeat of somebody's fitness program.
Yeah.
If you're going to do one thing in your fitness life, I would recommend resistance training. One, it increases bone mineral density. It increases muscle mass. And again, there's still a lot of people that, especially females, they have this fear that they're going to grow these huge muscles and they're going to get bulky. That does not happen. It does not happen. When you see a female that has huge muscles, many times they're taking hormones that contribute to that. So it's very rare. So let me alleviate that fear if anybody has that. I also recommend resistance training as the best anti-aging drug. Now, it's not a drug, but it keeps the body young. It makes you resilient to life's challenges. So you build muscle, it builds bone mineral density, it gives you power. And I research young people. Starting to research midlife women. It is the best form of a stimulus to keep us young.
Absolutely. And we could probably be here for hours discussing the value of strength training. Many people come to the faster way and they are primarily doing long form cardio. So when I walk into a gym, when I'm at a hotel or when I'm at my beach club, most of the time, the women are just simply going to the elliptical or the stair stepper or the treadmill. And there is value to cardio. Absolutely. No question. However, I want to see you lifting weights, and not only lifting weights, lifting heavy weights, because as you mentioned, it is the secret to longevity. Now, if you simply go into the gym and you're lifting weights, you're doing our workouts, which are 30 minutes in and out, and you're not also focusing on the protein intake, you're not going to be able to optimize your results. But we want you to go ahead and focus on these workouts. We want you to invest in heavier weights. We have the best workouts in the world. I truly believe that. People come for fat loss and they stay for our workouts because they are so enjoyable in and out. We do have a gym version, but we have the at-home version, which many of our clients take part in. As a trainer, I worked out in the gym every single day for probably a decade, never missed a day. And then during the pandemic, I started doing our home workouts for the first time. We'd been ramping up our home workouts for a couple years at that point. And I started doing them at home during the pandemic. I have never gone back. I mean, it's a funny thing. I've never gone back. I love our home workouts. I love the time savings. I am a busy mom of 5, okay? And I'm running a company that's one of the fastest growing nutrition and fitness companies in the world, in the country especially. And for me to be able to put on my shoes, throw on a tank top and shorts, do my strength training workout 30 minutes in and out, and still have great results with strength gains, that has been just so wonderful. How many days per week do you typically strength train?
Well, me personally, I'm about 3 days per week.
Perfect. That's what we do in the faster way.
Yes.
We didn't even compare notes on that ahead of time.
I do like to say, though, whatever your lifestyle allows, just make it a priority.
Absolutely.
So for some people, it might be twice. Some people might love it so much they can fit 4. But for me, a sweet spot with my schedule is 3 times per week.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we do in the faster way, which is worth noting, is that we pair our strategic food cycle with effective 30-minute workouts. And we still to this day are probably one of the only companies doing this. So on Wednesday, for example, if you're following the Summer Slimdown Sample Meal Plan, you might notice, you might not, you're actually consuming a little bit more carbs. We want you to have energy for that strength training workout. So we're having you eat just a little bit more of those clean carbohydrates. You're going to do total body strength training on Wednesday. As I mentioned, Thursday is going to be upper body. Your upper body is the second biggest muscle group, so we want you to really focus on lifting heavy. Saturday, we do leg day. Okay, leg day. We're working legs throughout the week in different ways, but we want you to pick up those heavy dumbbells. We do a lot of compound movements. We're going to train you on form. We want you to be safe as well. But we do, again, have a good bit of carbs on Saturday in particular. Monday, Tuesday, we're a little bit less carbs because we pair the food cycle with a high intensity interval training workout. We're doing, fasting as well. We'll very quickly talk about that. But we only have a few minutes left, and I know that you have some opinions about alcohol. Okay, alcohol is a hot topic. Many of us like to have a cocktail. Many of us like to have a glass or 2 or 3 of wine. We got kids. But there's science behind the whole concept of consuming alcohol and how it impacts our results. So share with us a little bit about what you know.
Yeah, and I just did some writing on this topic within the last week, so this is very fresh to me. So first of all, I'm a fat loss scientist, and alcohol has calories. So it's these empty calories that's really making reaching our goals a lot more difficult. Earlier, we talked about eating a processed food diet is not your friend if you're trying to lose body fat. Same thing with alcohol in terms of body fat. But what I was doing some research on in the last few weeks was the impact of alcohol on building muscle. So you're spending all of this time lifting weights and you're lifting heavy weights and you're making progress, but a high level of alcohol or even moderate levels of alcohol work against your body's adaptation to the resistance training stimulus. So when we lift weights, we increase something called muscle protein synthesis. That's the process of building up our muscles. And alcohol seems to interfere with that pathway such that we kind of were spinning our wheels a little bit with our efforts. So if you're going to invest the time and the energy to lifting weights, first of all, yes. Second of all, let's try not to sabotage those efforts by consuming alcohol if that are not working in concert with our stated goals.
Yeah. And that's not to say that we want you to completely deprive yourself. Typically, what I recommend, even especially as you go through something like the 5-day summer Slimdown, is to save alcohol for Saturday. We're doing our heavy leg day. Maybe we're going to enjoy something a little bit more on, Saturday. We kind of use that as a treat day, not a cheat day, but a treat day in the faster way to fat loss. I usually go straight to the bakery after my leg day. I have a donut to replenish my glycogen stores, But if you do have alcohol, maybe go ahead and save that till Saturday this week. So the faster way to fat loss has multiple different strategies that lay the foundation for making us the most effective fat loss program on the market. One of those strategies is intermittent fasting. Many of you are going to use a 16-8 intermittent fasting window. Here's what my window looks like. I have dinner around 7 p.m. I start the timer on my fast after dinner. The next morning, I wake up, I drink my water, I drink sometimes herbal teas, potentially black coffee, usually black coffee. And then I am breaking my fast typically around 11, maybe noon. That works really nicely for my schedule because I'm, worrying about 5 kids in the morning. I'm getting myself out the door. I'm kicking off meetings. I do a 6:45 a.m. meeting when I'm in Costa Rica with my team leaders, and I'm, just kind of getting the day rolling. And then I'm breaking my fast when I just have a little bit more downtime, through the mid-morning, the afternoon. So I want you to try intermittent fasting. Do you intermittent fast?
Yes. I call it more just a natural intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
What I learned about myself was I'm just not naturally hungry in the mornings. So for years, and I remember you probably were told this too, you have to eat breakfast.
Yes.
It's the most important meal of the
Right.
day. And I remember trying to find research to support this. And then I couldn't find any. Then I had my students at my university. I'm like, hey, I'll give you extra credit if you can find, show me where this research, and it didn't exist. So what I've learned is, again, for fat loss, I want to eat when I'm hungry, and I don't want to consume calories when I'm not. So I am not hungry in the morning. So for me, it's a natural rhythmic action of eating. I eat around 11 or 12, and now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And then I usually stop around 8 o'clock at night. So to me, it was a self-experimentation. I'm like, I never really called it intermittent fasting, but that's exactly what it is.
I love that you looked for research because I did the same thing when I was training clients in the gym. I'm telling everyone to eat immediately when they wake up. Get your metabolism going. You don't want to damage your metabolism, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm not seeing my clients experiencing significant results, even though I know they're in the gym with me. I know they're, following the food. So I start doing more research and I'm like, same thing. I'm not finding it. And then come to find out, this whole mantra that breakfast is the most important meal of the day was actually propagated by breakfast cereal companies because a smart marketer in 1970 or whenever decided that was going to be the new mantra to get more people to buy Kellogg's cereal or General Mills cereal. So, when I came upon that, I thought, man, I need to really do a deep dive. Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell, for the incredible value that you've provided to us today. We really appreciate your time. And we hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Best wishes. Bye.